Thank you all for being here, and thank you to Joni, Senator Ernst, for pulling us all together. You're going to hear a lot of repeating themes, but it's not like we've coordinated our message here. It's just when you move and you travel and you see this firsthand, you realize the urgency of now. You realize that this is occurring in Europe's, not backyard, in their front yard. And you understand that the challenges of the Ukrainian people, the Ukrainian military, the Polish people, my goodness, I think all of us have such admiration for what the Poles are doing. They've opened up humanitarian segments. They are the front line, large border with Ukraine. And they're a member of NATO. And they have taken the lead in terms of working with our soldiers, with the NATO soldiers, the NATO military, to do and be ready. Because we can't kid ourselves. Senator King is right. Putin has already lost. But if of any stretch of the imagination he would have some success, would he stop there? Would this be the end of where his empire building would go? And those nations in the front yard, in the NATO nations, they know the answer to that is no. And that strengthens the resolve, and I think has been a large part of why you've seen not just the strengthening, but the speaking with one voice that you see with NATO, the United States, and other friendly nations. Putin is waging an immoral and unjust war. We did talk to folks in the refugee centers. They're serving 6,000 meals a day, volunteers. We met folks that just fly in to be able to help. A young man who was a native Ukrainian who said, I couldn't stay in my home, my comfortable home in Washington, D.C. any longer. I had to be there. I had to be there to help. We saw Katerina. She has 2 children. She said, I couldn't let my children listen to these endless sirens anymore. She lived 2 miles from the Russian border. She left her home, her husband. She's going to the United Kingdom, but she doesn't want to go. She wants to live in freedom and her home and live on her property and have a normal life. And I don't think that's too much to ask. The Ukrainian people are defending their freedom with our help. They are doing a magnificent job. They were underestimated. The Russian troops were overestimated. And what's happened? It boils down to the resolve of the Ukrainian country, of every man and woman in that country who are going to fight to the end. NATO is strong. We spent some time, as they said, in Germany talking with the foreign minister, but also with our ambassador in Germany. Germany has stepped up to the plate like we haven't seen. Full commitment to NATO. Another 100 million euros. Billion with a B. Sorry, thank you, Angus. 100 billion euros. We spoke with the Bundestag, which is their equivalent Congress, from all the parties. They've got one mixed-up system there, I'll have to say that. But thank goodness we only have to keep track of 3. But everybody was at the table, and it seemed as though there is a united front here to make this commitment. And I think that is quite a statement from our German friends. I think that also there's nothing like seeing this, and this what brings the urgency of now that you hear in each one of our voices. We are committed to what we've done in the past, but let's face it. We put that vote off for a week on Ukrainian aid. A week. That's a lifetime in this conflict. Every day, every minute counts. So that was really reinforced to me as we moved on. There are other sanctions, as Senator Gillibrand said, that we could move forward on. So I want to say to the Ukrainian people and those who are brave enough to come and speak with us, and the NATO partners that we saw, and our military is absolutely awesome. When you see the leaders, the young men and women who, the 82nd Airborne, I asked one of them, how much notice did you get to be deployed? 24 hours. Packed up, out the door. And proud to be doing it. It just gives me chills to think about it. So I think that we need to realize, and the American people need to realize, this is much bigger and much more urgent and has much bigger ramifications. So we need to support, we need to arm, we need to keep our humanitarian assistance, And I think we have a great momentum here off of this trip with our other colleagues as well when they visit and when they hear our voices. Thank you.
Well said.
It's no surprise here. We've picked a side. We're on the side of freedom and the Ukrainian people. And Vladimir Putin has known that from the very beginning. So for him to say that we're escalating or that anything that we do is an escalatory, he knew that NATO and the free nations, freedom-loving nations of this world are and have been on the side of Ukrainians. We've been training Ukrainian soldiers through NATO for years.
Years.
We've watched as he's been killing people in Ukraine over the last several years. So I think he cannot possibly think that the world buys the fact that we are standing tall with the Ukrainians as anything more than what he knew it was going to be before he went in there. And the other thing I'll say is we're being very careful with our NATO partners to make sure that lines are not crossed. We know how to do that. They know how to do it. And the Ukrainians need to do it. But we're on their side.